thanks for coming on with Joe. It's such a dope artist. You know, for an artist from is it Camden, London, but he was actually born in Eritrea.
Born in Saudi Arabia, but
All right, okay,
but I'm
Saudi.
Eritrean. Yeah. So like double diaspora. Yeah.
Of course. What was it like growing up in Camden?
Wow. So it's Camden itself, yeah, which is it's like the bohemian heart of London, right? It's the artistic, creative heart. It's the hub in terms of the music venues, the bars, the nightclubs, the markets, and the amount of different cultures, and the stables market from the 1800s. And we get millions of visitors every week. There's the London Zoo, there's all the venues, there's the British Museum, there's the British Library, there's all the universities. The university hub of London is in Camden. There's all these government departments as well. You've got the royal parks. You've got so much big, you've got a lot of venues, concert halls, and rich people around you. And you know about all the artists and the Clash and, psychedelia and the witches from hundreds of years ago, the occult in Camden. So that's and also it's like when people think of Camden, when you go other places in London, tell people you're from Camden, when I was growing up, they'd be like, oh, okay, crack cocaine, whatever, like mad people, mental illness. So creativity, drugs, and mental illness were like the same thing. But where I grew up, I didn't grow up in the high street. I didn't grow up in the market, right? I grew up in residential area where people actually lived and had to survive and grow up. And where I grew up was an estate called Maiden Lane, which was one of the main 5 like big sink estates in Camden that are just known for crime and violence and poverty and sex work and stolen bikes and stolen mopeds burnt up on the football pitch on most nights, and just crack everywhere, dead bodies, waking up to that on Saturdays and Saturday and Sunday mornings where you want to go play football and the police have cordoned off because people have OD'd. Graffiti artists, incredible graffiti artists, the most all city people from London and the UK, like used to tag up my area. Like that's what I grew up with, like needles and condoms around and that kind of shit, and deprivation and like broken bits of the ground where you got to jump because there's just, you know what I mean? But right across the road from us is like where Johnny Depp would live, or like someone like Elton John would have a house, or like a football player. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, that's what London is similar to geographically, and urban development is similar to Rio in that that's the way the poverty and richness is right next to each other. Whereas because I've been to these places, Sao Paulo in Brazil is more like Paris, where they don't call them favelas that much in Sao Paulo. In Sao Paulo, they call it the periferia. What periferia are you from? The periphery, because you're on the edge, like in Paris. You get me? Whereas London, it's just it's not like a suburb thing. I mean, obviously there's huge suburbs, like entire half of the UK try and say they're a suburb of London, but like within London, like it's generally like estates, council estate, boom, government department, big concert or venue, high street, all the high shops. But on top of those shops are places like it's government housing on top of like the H&M somehow. Like it's mad. Do you know what I mean? Like it's ridiculous. So
yeah, I remember. I think it was Kara One who spoke about he was actually homeless in New York. And he was actually sleeping on the steps of the World Trade Center, and he'd wake up after a cold night on a hard night on the streets. You see all these big bankers and investors and big business people just walking past, and we kind of see this over here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Where they're in the same place as you, but they don't know you exist.
Exactly.
And then in the education system, it's weird because it's like, when I turned like 21 and started, I went uni when I was 18, dropped out to carry on touring. I went tour with Lowkey like that month. Like I dropped out of uni in Ireland actually, and yeah. But when I was like 21, I started hanging out at the universities in my area because all of the famous universities, SOAS, UCL, Birkbeck, Institute of Education. They're all around me. Like not around me, like it's like a half an hour walk, but it's in my borough.
Sure.
You know, so I just used to go there and treat it like my youth club. And the weird thing was like, I started finding out people actually went to these places called private schools, and I'd never really known people even like I hadn't. Everyone I knew was from a council estate. You know what I mean? Like until even like 16, like everyone, every cousin that I had, every friend that I hung out with from school or after school, none of the kids who lived in like houses invited me around to their house, you know, in primary school, and then secondary school, not really either, you know. So it's weird in it, and in the way the education system worked, what they do is, because I never knew the people who went private school, I knew middle class people who went to my schools in primary and secondary, but these middle class people were being allowed to they were put in top set when we went to secondary, right, when doing GCSEs. So there's 3 different classes. There's the foundation group, there's the mid set and top set, and if you're in top set, you can get an A, because the paper that you have, the potential, you can potentially get an A. But if you're in foundation set, the maximum you can get if you get every question right, because it's a lower paper, is a C, right? And the maximum you can get in foundation is a D, which is a fail to go to uni. But for half of the school year, you're going to be doing, and half of the week, you're going to be doing vocational training in engineering or electrician or beauty and social care and all that kind of stuff, right? But these people send their kids to my kind of school, yeah, because number one, they're liberals and they don't want to be seen as scumbags who were paying for private school. Number two, they know for a fact that their kids are going to be allowed in the top set, and they're not going to have a cap on their achievement. They're going to get the paper that allows them to get an A if they get every question right. And number three, they pay for a private tutor every single night for their kids, when even though they're in the top set at the state school. So they pay 30 quid a day, 5 days a week for what, like 40 weeks a year, which comes out way cheaper than 15 grand a term. Right, so that's the kind of place, do you know what I mean? So it's like forgotten about, just trying to deal with it, just trying to crack jokes, kind of watch movies, trying to, you know, ride bikes and play football, play basketball, make music, live our lives. Some people want to become doctors and, you know, get done for 5 years for possession of a shotgun. Some people don't want to do anything but somehow become teachers and nurses and do something, bus drivers, people with families, and just, you know what I mean? People just living life, people protesting when fascists come to their streets and just being normal people. That's what it is. Make art as much as they can and try to sell cupcakes, whatever.
That's it. That's the hustle, though, isn't it? That's the hustle. And you turn your heart off to music. So how did you get into music?
I needed to do it to stay sane. That's number one.
Sure.
I was mad lucky because in the mid 2000s there was just bare government funding, because when Labour came in, like my council estate went from it was called, nickname was Alcatraz, right, for Maiden Lane Estate, right, because of the architecture, but also because of the condition. And we had a community center, a youth center, like more funding came in. We started getting brochures that were like, yo, on the weekends, after schools, and during the summer holidays and Easter holidays and half terms, you can go to these places. So if you want to become a musician, you can go to these 8 different music organizations, right? Music schools, music colleges, or like you can go to this youth club that's got like a DJ workshop for an hour, or you can go to this place and get like a 2-week course in music, and we're paying for it because we're the council. And you need to be not on the streets, because whatever, we're still on the streets, but every second that we're not at these places. But while we're at these places, we're learning stuff. If you want to become a sculptor, you can go to these sculpturing schools. This art college is giving it accredited 1-week course in your half term. Go there. If you want to do bikes, you can learn how to fix bikes. And do you know what I mean? You're not already stealing them, you might as well learn. If you want to do flipping coaching badges for football or anything, and if you want to just play games, go to all of these different youth clubs and just play games. We've got PlayStations and pool tables for you. And if you want to go Fort Park, we'll take you there, and all that, London Zoo and whatever, go-karting. So like, I love that, obviously. Like I was so bored just reading on my own and stuff. But when the community center opened up, my mom said, "Go there, go play center." So by the time I was in secondary school, year 7, Get Rich or Die Trying came out.
Yes.
So that kind of, I was already writing poetry to stay sane because of the racism and bullying and exclusions and all that kind of shit. And I just ended up going to looking up that council brochure and going, oh, I'm gonna go to all these music things. I tried out everything. I did the bike safety course, do you know what I mean? So I can at least like indicate properly and all that kind of stuff. I went Fort Park, but also I wanted to do the music things because I was writing poetry, but I also have a thing called synesthesia, which is your senses are connected. So flipping, one type of synesthesia is some people, when they read something, every single word gives them a taste. Like literally, it creates the sensation of flavor on their tongue of something. Like Marmite, you might say, "My name's Steve," and then they go, "That's Marmite." Someone called Marissa might taste like orange juice. I've got a type of synesthesia called chromesthesia, which means that when I hear music, I saw colors in my head. Quite a lot of it's one of the most common types.
Yeah, I've actually heard of that.
Yeah, lots of people have it, and lots of people don't know that they've got this until they hear someone like me talk about, oh, I've got this thing, or someone say my mate's got this thing, or when you ask someone, or when a kid is growing up. I've got 2 other types called audio linguistic personification, right? Ordinal linguistic, and it's where my letters, every letter and every number has a personality, an agenda, and a backstory, and their friends and enemies with other letters and numbers, and that some people have letters and numbers have colors, or every day of the week has a color or a taste or a flavor or a smell. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
this is a real thing. So I just put together the fact that I loved poetry and I loved reading and doing words anyway, maybe because of the letters and numbers thing. So I loved letters and working with words. And then because I saw colors, I loved music. I used to take the top 40 every week while having the F1 on mute on Sundays. And so by the time I went to those courses, hip hop, this guy called 50 Cent he was muscular. He'd been shot 9 times, but he looked like Optimus Prime. He looked like a monster. He looked like something I'd never seen before, like a human being looking that muscular. But you know that he's been shot 9 times, and this is his recovery. So as me, I'm getting bullied. I'm fighting. Everyone's fighting. We're getting rushed every day. We're rushing people every day. This was like masculinity. Do you know what I mean? And then from there, you can go into stuff like Tupac, Nas, Jay-Z, and whatever. But it was 50 Cent. That was the thing. It came out when I was 12, 13, in year 7, completely changed my life. And then that's why I just had to make music. And luckily enough, those places were open. So I could go and record and learn how to produce and engineer and write songs and whatever. All of my answers are this long, bro. So just get used to it.
Hey, I'm all ears, bro. I'm all ears. So interesting though, because you see, I've seen you live like twice, and so dope. You're DJing and your live set. You're rapping. So delving into your story, it's interesting to me. How your career began from early age up until now. So it's very interesting. You see 50 Cent and all them other guys, Nas, Tupac. Do you remember them first sessions then at the clubs? Do you remember the first recordings?
Yeah.
What was they like?
I remember like someone from. I remember even when someone from Heartless came down and taught us how to DJ, and we had to go to the estate next door. Sure. And we had to squash a beef with the estate next door. Just stupid. I wasn't involved in the beef, but my estate had beef with their estate and vice versa. We had to go there to do this course, so we had to all be friends and learn how to DJ. But I remember those first sessions. I remember the first things I wrote as well. Those were before that. Actually, the summer before year 7, 2 of my cousins challenged me to write something against my other younger cousin, and I did, and it was like a garage beat. But I remember first going down to that place called The Shed in Camden Street, and I later became the studio manager and the lead sound engineer 10 years later. But yeah, I remember it. There was 2 guys there. One guy called Kenny with dreads. His rap name was Spiritual. Another guy called Simon. This like really incredible producer from Leeds. And they're giving me like Jim Morrison records from the Doors. Do you know what I mean? Like American Dream. What was it called? American American Sutton.
Yeah, I'm not
his
familiar.
album.
Sure.
And just, you know, giving me like all this other music, and you know, Kenny's giving me all this rap and all this punk and teaching me how to produce on GarageBand.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did these shows where like people were coming down, like quite notable grime MCs and hip hop like rappers from the area as well were coming down and doing stuff, but they were teaching us how to perform as well, because they'd booked these performances at the theater around the corner, like 50 cap, and the next one was 150 cap.
Wow.
Like, capacity. And like, but in preparation for them, we did like 2 weeks of rehearsals in this place. Like, it was in a basement underneath a church, and the church was now a community center. And upstairs, it was mainly stuff for elderly people. So yeah, they turned the basement into this shed for young people. Literally, they had a shed down there, a broken iMac, an old iMac, and a broken drum kit.
Wow.
And the way they made us rehearse for these live shows was literally just making us perform, teaching us, yo, hold your hand here, exactly at that distance away from the mic, never cup the mic. And like, literally, like, they're gonna come on and jump, people are gonna jump on you while you're performing, people are gonna throw stuff at you, you're just gonna carry on, boom. And these are like hard man, like outside of this place, these people are feared.
Mm-hmm.
And they're calling you names, they're throwing stuff at you, they're like trying to jump on you so that you don't hold the mic exactly like the right amount of inches away from your mouth, and making sure you don't forget your lyrics. Now do it in a Scottish accent. Now do it the entire song whispering. Now change the hop on one leg so that if anything happens, you're ready. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like all of this stuff. So like, and it was a camaraderie thing, you know what I mean? It was like pushing each other, like people would boo and make all this noise, and afterwards, like the applause was like, yeah, sick, next one up, boom. Like, it was wonderful. So that's the kind of and then later on, like when then they left, a guy called Mark and a guy called Jerry also came down, and Vinny were dealing started running the shed. But then it became self-managed. So they were just the sound engineers, and then everyone would book their own sessions and meet up on their own at that place. But there was quite a few other places that I'd go to like that, but that was the main one. Places like the Roundhouse and other places. But yeah, we're fortunate because it was like Tony Blair was like, don't look at the Iraq war. We're sending, you know what I mean? We're going to kill like 1 million people for nothing because of imperialism. It's not for nothing because of imperialism, money and oil and infrastructure, Halliburton and all that kind of stuff, right? And also like white, we're going to say it's white savior complex. These bad brown people need. So even the reason why they're doing it is terrible, right? That they're saying is white savior complex reason. But don't look at that Iraq war thing because your kids have whatever they want. Do you know what I mean? On the weekends, and if they want to go to them, like, you know, we're gonna stop and search them to death, and you know what I mean? We're still gonna make them feel like they're not welcome. They're not human beings every day at school and on the street by the police and all that kind of stuff. But at least we've got these youth clubs open for them. Yeah. So yeah, lucky.
Wow.
I remember those first sessions.
Yeah. So from then, what was the duration from them sessions, them early sessions, to your 2016 EP? Was it Shination?
It's a long journey, man.
Wow.
So basically, what happened? So when I was like 14, just before I turned 15, someone gave me Most Def Black on Both Sides after trying to give me this album for like a year. This guy on my estate, Wale, yeah, he was just like, listen to this, please, because like the way I was going, I was like, yeah, the way I was going, I thought I was 50 Cent in it. Like, I was just, it wasn't good. Yeah, like, yeah. And then he gave me this album, and then I was like, no. And I finally listened to it, a year later, and it completely changed my life. Like, it started off with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, which is, you know, it's in the name of Allah, the most beneficent, most merciful. And I never heard anyone say Arabic on a song, let alone something from the Quran, let alone the beginning of a prayer.
Yeah.
And then it became, I was like, okay, this beat is mad. Later on, I found out it's a Fela Kuti reinterpolation, the first song on Black on Both Sides, Fear Not of Man. It's Fear Not for Man by Fela Kuti that he samples or reinterpolates. And the rest of the album was dope. I just carried on playing it while I had the game Gun on mute.
Okay.
It was like an OG Red Dead Redemption on PS2. My friend gave me that, so it lent me that. So I had this album on mute, this album playing, or playing this game on mute, and I just kept listening to it. And then by the end of that, I was like, oh, so I've been reading all these books about Africa and about colonialism and about the Moors and ancient Egypt and Malcolm X and stuff. But I've been living this 50 Cent life. But there is music, rap music out there that's more like what I am,
Sure.
I think, or what I'm into, which is the stuff I'm reading and the stuff that I'm like Black Power, my family, are revolutionaries. So then I just went down the Mos Def route and I became Mos Def, basically. You know? Like, you know, all of those kind of musicians from Pharoah Monch and loads of people, Lauryn Hill. But I already, you know, I loved Nas before that because he was, and Tupac because they were political and stuff, but I didn't know about these other artists. So as soon as I knew about them because this guy was telling me, listen to him, but I said, shut up. I said, I don't know my list. I don't want to listen to Mos Def. I don't like them motherfuckers. I thought Mos Def and Mobb Deep were the same thing.
Wow.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
But I'm young. I didn't have any older siblings, so that's what, I'm a refugee. My family don't know about anything European, so, or music wise, like other than that, my dad doesn't know music, so
Sure.
my mum might know Lionel Richie and stuff. You know what I mean? So anyway, yeah. So when I was 15, I bumped it basically on work experience at school in year 11, so the last year of secondary before sixth form. I was on 2-week work experience at a bookshop. It was supposed to be at this place called Urban Development, which is similar to the Roundhouse in that it's a music venue and it was like a music education college. And I didn't get that. Instead, I had to be at a bookshop in central London. I was pissed off about that. But what was great was at like my third lunch break, doing my work experience at this bookshop in Leicester Square, actually, I bumped into this guy called Styler. And this guy Styler was selling CDs with a couple of other people. And he was like, yo, listen, this is my mixtape. It's got these people on it. It's got this, that. And he like clocked me. He was like, who's your favorite rapper? Immortal Technique, innit? Just like looking at me. And I was like, yeah. But at that time it was, do you know what I mean? For those like 4 months, it was like, I don't know what it was. And then I was like, yeah, it is. He's like, yeah, he's on this. He's just doing a drop, by the way. It's like, yo, listen to this. It's Immortal Technique, big up Styler. Like, this is the mixtape. But he told me, yeah, he's on this. I'm like, oh, okay. I copped it for like $5. Came back the next day after listening to it, and then I was like, "Yo, this is incredible, man!" Like, and then I found out he's part of the Poisonous Poets, and the one rapper who I knew after finding out about Mos Def, who was also Muslim, was this guy called not Muslim, but I knew he was half Arab somehow. Was this guy called Lowkey, who my brethren were playing Lowkey in my friend Laurie's house, and her brother Lee. Was into like Wu-Tang and all that stuff, right? But he was into everyone, but he was like a big Wu-Tang fan. He, via her, she was playing this guy Lowkey, and I was like, yo, this guy said that he was Arab or something, and I was like, yo, this is incredible, and I keep playing this, and we were playing it all summer, and then I said to them in that house, wow, one day watch, I'm gonna do a song with him, and they all laughed at me, and I remembered that. Anyway, so then I found out this guy Styler, who CD I just got, is in the Poisonous Poets of Lowkey. Came back the next day, I was like, yo, fam, the CD was hard. My name's Victory. I need to get Victory is the translation of my name Awate in Tigray, one of the 9 languages of my country, Eritrea. And I just said, yo, like my name's Victory, I spit. And he was like, okay, let's do something. So I spat right there in front of him, D-Raw, and like I think Khalid was there, and maybe like Loops, or there were all these CD shotters, famous people. Genesis Elijah was one of them. Mike GLC was one of them, like who was just on in Central, just shotting CDs. AC and Terror, all these people just shotting CDs daily. Like if you're at a show in London, you know these people. But like Styler was like known as like one of the best rappers. Anyway, so he made me spit. I spat. They were like, okay, that was okay. And my verse was all like, yo, in the sarcophagus of Kemet, there was a young pharaoh who walked the streets and spoke the words of Martin Luther King and said unto a prophecy. It was all that. Like I was like 15, and it was all like ancient Egyptian and like you know, and the West America does this and they go to war for that, but when we really break it down, I'm the illest spitter and I wear the best Nikes. And but it was a mix of, 15-year-old rapping, but like he was rapping about Martin Luther King and Malcolm X as much as he can. So they were like, okay. And then D-Raw, legendary CD seller, said, businessman said, yo, all right, answer this question. What was the original name of ancient Egypt? And I went, oh man, you're really asking me this? And I like played it off and I was like, that would be KMT, Kemet, which means, and then I went into it, which in the language would have been Kemu and means black land. And they originally called, and I just went into the hit and he was like, okay, yeah, all right. So you can join the crew. So then from then on, they were like, yo, here, hold these CDs.
Sure.
Shot, like, this is how you shot them. I was terrible. I didn't sell like one CD for like 6 months. And some of these people were selling 50 a day for £5, like legendary numbers, even more than that. That was like average for a lot of people, like for like staying out there for like 6 hours. So yeah, I just followed them everywhere. And after selling CDs all day, you go to a gig. Do you know what I mean? Or we're going to Stroud or Sutton, these next places, these suburbs, get on a train for an hour, town centre, like in front of their Dixon's and fish and chip shop and whatever, in front of their river, and just sell CDs there for get back to London, get involved in madnesses. I'm 15, 16, 17, like madnesses, staying over at this person's house, doing a show in a pub, then going to a night, like a club where there's an actual set that our name is on the thing. And then I joined like up with Lowkey after that, finally. And then also put People's Army, I was rapping with them a lot. I was still doing a lot of stuff in my area as well at the time, but at this point I was out until 4 or 5 a.m. and leaving the house at like 6, 7 to go to school. So I just was not at home. I was just rapping. All I was doing was rapping, doing open mics, doing shows, rapping, just hanging out with rappers, people 10, 15, 20 years my senior, people with mad respect, people like we can get free trainers and get us into this show backstage. And yeah. So that's
like learning on your job kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's what. And then I linked up with this guy called Comey, who was my producer. He was like a year younger than me. We made a project. For like 3 years, we were working on what would have been my debut album, Warrior Scholar, when I was still called Victory. And then I changed my name to Awate again, my real name. And then me and him had a fallout, and then he went and produced La 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 for Naughty Boy, which was the number 3 biggest selling single in the world in 2013.
Wow.
And about that time, I also linked up with Turkish, who became my new producer, and also I produced an artist I looked up to in Sway, like a big hero of mine as a rapper from North London. Humorous, funny, deep. He had the Quran on his first song on his first album as well, as well as the Lord's Prayer. So I linked up with him, and then he ended up producing my debut album, which I made completely on bail, which was Happiness. And as soon as I finished making Happiness, I still had court cases to go. So I then made Shine Ancient, which was my debut EP. I made it after Happiness.
I'm with you. Sure.
Because I didn't want to put Happiness out first because I thought it was so special. Let's wait and let's make something else. So then we made Shine Ancient, and I still had court cases and stuff. So I made it then.
Yeah.
And by the time all my court cases were done, I'd gone back to uni, and I just started uni. And I thought, let's use this student loan fund, this money, and put it into some of the music videos and, paying my mates to help me listening parties and do this. And my now wife at the time I met. So like everything came together. My court cases were over. I got the student loan money, and I got the most incredible album ever. I sent it to Mos Def and Pharoah Monch, who I then became friends with in the intervening years. And they thought it was incredible. So I was like, yeah, this Happiness thing is the thing. So let's make Shine Ancient. Let's put that out first. Let's put money into the music videos. Let's do it. I did it. I got an agent. I became resident artist at the Roundhouse, one of my local venues. Used their support. Just carried on. Got a live agent. Carried on doing stuff. And then I ended up putting out Happiness after the Shine Ancient thing. And touring with Lowkey, who I was with since I met him when I was 15. Like I was DJing for him and his opening act since I was 17, actually. So when we went to Ireland, when I dropped out of uni, it was because he was like, yo, you can be the opening act for the entire tour as well. And I was like, cool, all right, let's go.
Crazy. That's crazy. going back to Shiny Nation, with the music video Out Here.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the music video, we see you getting bundled into a police van.
Yes, you
was
did.
that? What was that footage from? Was that from one of the cases?
Yeah, that was the last time I was arrested in 2014. Really simple one. Nazis wanted to come down the high road, have a procession, have a fascist procession, because they thought the Muslim Brotherhood were above this. Muslim Brotherhood are like an Egyptian political party, but they think they're a terrorist group of some kind, or like whatever. Like, anyway, they were like hyping themselves up, and they thought they were above like this kebab shop or something in Cricklewood in northwest London, which is sort of my area. So I linked up with the hundreds of other, and maybe even thousands of local teachers, priests, shopkeepers, teachers, bus drivers, and kids, and black bloc people to stop them, to stop the fascists from going down the road. No pasaran is a famous saying. It means they shall not pass. The fascists should not, they won't win this victory. It's been used for time, more than 100 years. So that's what we did. We stopped them. And then later on that day, there was a little incident with a Nazi, told me to go back to my own country. And then an altercation happened. But police came. There was no problem at that point. And then this police officer got really upset that I said some mean things about the British Empire, and decided to take it upon himself to arrest me for Section 5. Like, he didn't. Later on, they charged me with stuff, but at the time, he just grabbed me and then created a big pile on beef, whatever. Anyway, so this music video starts off with that arrest, which is me trying to, after 2 hours after a fascist procession, after the community had stopped them, stupid incident happened, and who was the only person arrested at a fascist protest? A black guy. I was the one arrest that entire day. And what you're seeing in that music video at the beginning of Out Here is, just before that, I'd been taken into the van and handcuffed behind my back. My man grabbed me by my afro and punched me in the face like 8 times, choked me out with his forearm against like the window of the police car, which you can't see through those windows. So I was just up against the window, punching me, choking me out like with their forearm as I'm handcuffed behind my back. And then they took me out of that van. The camera starts rolling. Why was that? Why in that music video? Why am I being taken out of one van and put into another one? Why don't they just put me from one van to the other? Because the first van is the one that will have the voice recording, and if there was a camera within vans, which is very rare, the video recording of me being battered. So what you're seeing in that music video is me being funny, being asked, "Hey, what's going on? Why haven't you arrested? What are you arrested him for? What have you charged him with?" And then I turn around and jokingly say, "He said he didn't know yet." Right? That's me being funny after I've just been battered in a van, like, and they're doing it. They're moving me from the van to conceal evidence. So, like, again, power. Anyway, so that was the last arrest. Last time I've been arrested, thank God, so far right now. Yeah, and then I got convicted of that thing, and then I won later on appeal. So it was then rescinded. But yeah, mad.
Well, that kind of when was that? 2014.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that kind of stuff's still going on to this very day. I mean, I was only watching the protest a few days ago. Can't remember where it was, Birmingham or somewhere like that.
Bristol.
Going crazy. I mean, what's your opinion on was it kill the pigs or something?
Kill the bill.
That's the one. What's your opinion on the current situation?
I mean, simple. Abolish the police. I'm an abolitionist. I abolish prisons. Yeah, it's really simple. So I don't need to go into like a long explanation of like what this bill says and the kind of the mad amount of years they're trying to give people for protesting, or for organizing a protest, or for blocking a road during a protest, or for shouting at a shop in a shop who's doing something, you know, like animal testing or whatever, like whatever it is, whatever the situation may be, they're trying to basically say that you will be put in a futuristic dystopian state, right? So anyway, yeah, I'm against what the government are trying to do, and I'm for what the people are trying to do, especially if the most radical responses to what the government are trying to do are probably for them as well, within reason and within the law and what can be defended with the law as well. Because there's them lot who the priest. There's a thing on Vice about this priest and another brother who two white brothers who went to a BAE Systems place just near you, actually. Right, there's a BAE Systems airfield where they make a lot of the fighter jets, not just for Britain, but I think mainly it's where they make the stuff for Saudi Arabia. So this priest, this ginger priest with long hair and a beard, he just is like, my man looks like I feel like I've seen him. I feel like I know that bright guy, you know, maybe at protest or something. Like he's been somewhere around me. Yeah. They to stop these fighter jets from bombing people in Yemen, they just went and did civil disobedience and snuck into this BAE Systems place and literally started hammering at the wings of these fighter jets that are worth like 100 mil. And just to deform the wing, let's break this window, whatever. Like they read up on it. Do you know what I mean? If we hit this part of the nose, it has 5 sensors in it that cost 50 grand each, and it will take it out of commission for 2 weeks. Then if we also hurt this wing, that panel there is got carbon fiber, so it's a bit more fragile. So if we hit it like this, that will take 3 weeks for them to get the parts, and that's maybe delaying some people getting murdered in Yemen. Do you know what I mean? From Hellfire rockets made by Britain, paid for by Britain, you know. And when they did that, they got off. They got caught. They were there. They got caught right there, and they got taken to a police station. They went for a trial and everything, but they got off. So yeah, I'm for that. You know what I mean? Especially if you can get off. And now the precedent that it's fine. They believed what they were doing was stopping a potential crime by Britain, and the judge agreed with them. So yeah, and
that leads me to
in the spirit of the Shakurs and Machiavelli and all of that.
Of course. Leads me to my next question with the police, not just over here, the police, you know, worldwide. Could they learn something from, you know, going forward? Could they learn something from the lyrics of the music that you produce? You know, the kind of revolutionary music, instead of, you know, just overlooking artists or pigeonholing artists or certain types of music, or, you know, the revolutionary message that you guys produce in your lyrics. Could they learn something from, you know, going forward?
Yeah, to stop existing. It's really simple.
Yes.
Yeah. Don't be a police officer. Apologize to your families. Do a lot of atoning to the community. Start going around. I don't know. I was gonna say start doing good things, like, I don't know, become a free private tutor for kids on estates. But no, don't go into anyone's house ever again after that. After you've been a pig, because you've learned, you know what I mean, violence. I don't want you ever to go into someone's house. Something weird might happen. But yeah, I don't want police to learn anything from my lyrics. Not one thing from my lyrics. I don't want the police to exist. So yeah, I don't want them to learn. What should they learn? They learn how to become a better killing machine. And,
Exactly. Good answer. So moving on from there, and you mentioned that you met Lowkey before you went on tour with it, you know, a few years prior to that. Yeah. What's Lowkey like as a person and going on tour? What's going on tour with Lowkey like?
It's a variety, man, because I've known him since I was 17 when we first did shows together. Like, I did shows together. I started DJing for him, and then opening act as well. So he was 22, and then the last time was like 2 years ago, right? 2019.
Sure.
Where I was 20. I was about to turn 28, so I was 27, and our birthdays are like 5 days apart, I think. The end of May. So if I was 27, he was 32.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've known him for 10 years, right? So 22 to 32, big difference. big difference. When I knew him, he was skinny, number one. Yeah, super skinny. When I knew him, when I first met him, he was skinny and he knew zero Arabic. This is like, my Arabic was so much better than his. And now he's he looks like 50 Cent on the cover of Get Rich or Die Trying. And and he is got a master's in Arab philosophy, in Arabic in philosophy in Arabic. What? Like, do you know what I mean? Arabic literature. And did an entire, has lived in like Lebanon and places for a while. So yeah, so there's big differences, yeah, he's always been really generous, incredibly generous, actually. Like from a business level, like he always tried to overpay me as well for stuff. By like, I think rather than there being any problems, do you know what I mean? If it's like from the beginning, if it was like £100 gig, he wasn't giving me like a tenner or whatever. Do you know what I mean? It was like a good amount to come out. Do you know what I mean? Like, boom, like you're learning and you get to perform on top. And then later on, when it's when he's a huge artist and touring and stuff, again, it was like, I think, because I've been on tour with other people, lots of other people, right, and did shows with other people, and it's like they don't even talk to you about what's going on with the P. And you find out 10 years later that they got paid for every one of those shows, and you and the 20 other rappers and singers who were going in, bringing people in, paying for drinks, they got a cut on the bar, and they took all the money, and they were getting paid by the, like, what? Like,
wow.
Do you know what I mean? So that's a big thing. So he's always been, that's integrity and trust. Yeah. But yeah, he's been a mentor as well. So I'm really lucky that Styler from the Poisonous Poets and Lowkey have been mentors of mine. And I'm friends with like Reveal, Tony D, the rest of them therapists, DJ Snips, and Dot Brown as well, So yeah, but what's Lowkey like? He I don't know, like we're similar in that we're both kids who got excluded a lot and had like problems sleeping. So when I first heard his verse on his first feature, Dot Brown, Mad World, from the time I was a toddler, tiny and small, I grew up into a little monster in primary school. Like all that verse, like suffered from sleep deprivation. I was like, I'm suffering from sleep deprivation right now, Lowkey. Like, you know what I mean?
Something you can relate to.
Yeah. So I already felt like I knew him. So like, yeah, it's calm and friendly, but like it was weird at first because I really looked up to him a lot as one of my favorite rappers ever. But yeah, he always made it comfortable, always pushed me to do stuff, and yeah, he's just very knowledgeable. So like when I say we're similar, the same way that I'm talking for like a lot right now, he's like this as well. Do you know what I mean? Pick up a lot. You pick up a lot.
Yeah.
On tour, like in a car with him, if you're in a car for like 10 hours, a car backstage and like checking into hotels and stuff for 10 hours a day, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17 hours a day, for like a month. Yeah, there's a lot that you're picking up and then you're learning from each other as well and other people on tour. So it's good.
Sure. Yeah, I met him twice. Like I say, one to Liverpool, one to Manchester, and the one at Liverpool, me and my brother, Sean, we was both hanging out the back, probably about 2 hours before the gig. He actually come out, headphones on, unbeknownst to us what he was doing, but he took a photo. We were chatting to him for a few minutes. He went off, and the owners of the club come out and said he was just brushing the concert hall. He was brushing the stage and whatnot.
Yeah.
Wow, like a big star like him is preparing the stage, he's brushing the stage. So he comes across very genuine. Very polite.
And he's funny. That's the thing. Obviously, I think people think that he's like he's like Zack Snyder or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, the Man of Steel, like DC movies, like they just think that he's like he just thinks about death and war and like, free Palestine and white phosphorus bombs and how terrible it all is and all of that. There is that, obviously, yeah, because he raps about it. But he's hilarious. Like, and He's playful. Yeah, he busts jokes, but yeah, I think with everyone, that's what you need to have. You know, when you're talking about the sweeping up stuff. Listen, like that's just a level of that's a level of respect that you should have at every level of what you do. Lowkey is one of the biggest independent rappers in the world, and he's doing that. I've been lucky enough to be around other artists who are even more known around the world than him, and they're just as humble as well. And maybe from me, it's like I've been a waiter, so like I'm always looking out to make the waiter's job as easy as possible. I've done this job, so I need to try and make that person's job as easy as possible. I've been handing out flyers, so I'll always take the flyer, give me more, so your shift can end a bit earlier. Do you know what I mean? So like for me, but even people, I don't know whether they've had a waitering job, but you just see the way they are. They're like, they pour everyone the water first. Do you know what I mean? Like, imagine not pouring everyone water first. And like being with someone who's like, okay, the waiter brings tap water for everyone, or there's a big jug of water, and you just pour for yourself and just put the jug back down. That's mad. Let alone, okay, boom, as soon as the jug comes down, we got to pour everyone else in it, make sure mine's last, so everyone thinks I'm a nice person. Even if it's so, everyone thinks I'm a nice person. It would set, do you know what I mean? You're setting a precedent for yourself there. You don't know you're doing it, but you've done it once, and you're going to do it every other time, and then you're going to start doing other nice things you didn't know about, you know?
It's a good way of putting it, that. It's a good way, it's good like a mindset. It's a good way of putting it, for sure.
Yeah.
So, I remember you actually shouted out Tupac on Out Here.
Shouts to Tupac, well, Money by New Mark, I Free My Mind Like Africa, and Kwame Nkrumah, and then did I mention him towards the end of the verse? No, but I think on Displaced there were 2 Tupac references. There's one,
I think, was it
Afina Shakur?
Yeah.
And I ain't going back to court. Forget what you thought. Yeah, from Pain.
Yes.
Right. I'm drinking Hennessy all over my enemies when I let the beat 23. There's so much pain. Yeah.
I love them lyrics. Love them.
Yeah.
Love them. With your protesting and you're standing up for people's rights, did Tupac influence your rights to protest? And the black, and going further, like Black
we're
Panthers.
just from similar families. Yeah, we're just from really similar families. It's really simple. His family were on the run in exile because they were revolutionaries. Same. So we're gonna end up somewhat similar. He grew up around violence, poverty, crack cocaine. I grew up same. Just fewer guns. Yeah. Differences, obviously. Britain and like America, he grew up in New York, then moved. I was born in Jeddah, then moved when I was 2.
Sure.
He was, you know what I mean? Yeah. So even on listen, Tupac might the Shakurs might come for me for like the entire Shine Ancient, but even the chorus of Cure, I won't deny it, I'm a straight rider, you don't wanna mess with me.
I noticed that one.
Tired of fighting, but I'll use violence if they come mess with me. Like, yeah, I borrowed a lot from Tupac on that project because what was going on? I was on bail. And guess what? Tupac started off his one of the most famous verses, 3 words. What are the 3 words to start off?
Yes. Out on bail.
And he has a song called
Out on Bail.
Out on Bail.
Sure.
Okay. So what's in my head? Every time I'm talking to people, hey, what's going on? Oh, how you doing, Awate? Yeah, good. I'm out on bail. Boom. Oh, you touched base? You home yet? Well, what's going on? Like, I heard like they took you in for custody for missing bail for like a couple hours. Yeah, no, it's all good. I'm out on bail. Right. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I can't go there. I'm not allowed under my bail conditions. I'm not allowed to go to there, that borough, those streets, any government building. I'm not allowed to go to any university building. Why? Because I'm out on bail. What am I going to do right now? Walk into a university building. Fuck them. What am I going to do now? Go to all the boroughs they told me. What am I not allowed to do? Go to protest. What am I allowed to do? Go to even more, get arrested more, and create even more problems. So do you know what I mean? Lashing out like Tupac. Never in my life have I ever thought if anyone touches me that they're allowed to, and they're going to just be allowed to and get away with it. So what did Tupac believe? the same thing Malcolm X believed, which is be courteous, have respect, be
course.
kind. But if someone puts their hands on you, send them to a cemetery. It's just, do you know what I mean? And Tupac's and during this entire time, yeah, after the first arrest, which was just from me just being on my estate, having a cigarette, listening to a podcast. From that first arrest, I was just thinking about obviously what happened with Parker's first situation, not first situation, but the situation where they police beat him up, right?
Yeah.
And he got money from that, and I was like, oh, like I got a bit of compensation for my thing, nowhere near the amount Tupac got. Fantastic for him.
Mm-hmm.
And not even nowhere near amount some of my friends got from their situation. So anyway, but I thought, yeah, that's similar to Tupac there. We're from similar family. That's happened. That's another. I'm not saying like I am these people, but there's similarities between your heroes and people whose music you love, and you're inside
Definitely.
their music when you listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, oh, he also had a situation where he saw someone getting battered by a police officer, come out of his car and shot 2 police officers and got off. Love it. So like, that's always in my head. You know what I mean? So when I'm making that entire project, I'm thinking about Tupac a lot. Yeah.
So inspirational. It really is. You know, how you've talked, you talk similarity between Tupac and other revolutionaries, and you know, put them into your songs. Even then, it goes further because, you know, us as listeners, we're taking that, it's helping us through similar situations that yourself have gone through. You know, so it's all good. It's all good. You know, it continues like that. Like your latest track, Dominic Cummings. I heard it the other day. Actually, watched the video the other day. What's your view of all this situation with the pandemic and all this crazy stuff that's going on?
It's in the song. I think.
Yeah.
I think like that's how I expressed it. Was it's just he's the symbol for it. Yeah, like you get rid of government services. Like, you know, I was thinking about this today, a couple hours ago, because of a lot of things. But like early on in the pandemic, even in Britain, not even with Donald Trump, yeah, like this buffoon, we've got a smarter Donald Trump, smarter, even more insidious Donald Trump, Boris Johnson. And I saw this video of him saying, Britain needs to stand up because there needs to be one country in the world in the face of something terrible, like influenza causing a pandemic around the world.
Sure.
Britain needs to stand up and say, we are open. Our markets are open. Britain needs to be a Superman. And I was like, so you're going to kill all the poor people? Okay. And then that was like a month after reports of an unknown virus from Wuhan. And that was also after I'd already done like 3 weeks of research, watching mini-series, films, watching about 200 hours of YouTube of like professors explaining virology, epidemiology, and me just going, okay, I think I know enough now. This is going to be bad. This could be bad because nothing's happening at the borders. And in all of these movies, they're trying to catch one person who's got something and stop it from going to 7 people and then stop it going from 1,000 people. This has been going on for 2 months. Oh my God, Boris Johnson's going to do what he said. So like we had to think as people from then on, can't trust the government. I had to cancel a gig a week before the government lockdown. Yeah, at the British Library that would have spread it even more. In March, on the 13th of March, the government locked down the week after that, 21st of March, So, what's my opinion on it? So while that's all happening, guess what's also happened? Jeff Bezos has gone from, just in the pandemic, from having 100 billion to 140 billion.
Yeah.
How long did it take him to make the 100 billion? 15 years, or his whole life, but Amazon since like 94, more
Sure.
than 15 years, yeah, like 25 years to make 100, and then he made 40 in about 6 months. Billion. Okay. Oh, what else has happened? About 247 billion unaccounted for. Yeah. Generally for track and trace and for PPE and masks and gowns, some of it 200 million to a company who have got 38 grand worth of assets and have only existed for a couple months. And guess what? The brother who owns that company is a Tory MP and
Sure.
a Tory minister. And there are about 17 of those stories just that I could list right now. Yeah. And there were probably about 500 of them. Every single one of those things was not competitively tendered. Yeah. It was like, let's just send the contract out. Boom. My mate, boom, set up a company now. Yeah. If we were the children of a Tory MP, we'd set up a coding business today. Tomorrow we'll get the entire contract to set up track and trace. And that would cost 38 billion or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. It costs more than the Channel Tunnel. Yeah. And reports shown that the entire thing saved no one. It said, yeah, that a report came out like a month ago that said the entire track and trace thing, which cost 37 billion, reportedly saved no one. Very few people had the app. The app didn't tell anyone everything. We had the reports when it was coming out because it was just some youth from the Tory of a Tory minister or a Tory minister funder whose youth just set up a company and gets an entire contract, and it's me and my mate. We're allowed to do it. So and there's just so much money that's gone missing. How about the people who were given like 200 billion to buy PPE? Again, a tiny company, never existed 2 months ago. Again, my wife is a Tory MP. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about I set up this company? I've bought 200 mil worth of stuff from China, and half of it unaccounted for. The other half is unusable. Right? How about as soon as the pandemic happened, every company that does health, because what I'm mainly naming now is as if companies don't exist who make these things or already import them or already have supplies in case of emergency. Yeah. So companies that already exist in Britain who make them in Britain, yeah, for these lot are nationalists. So they're allowing people to give 200 million to China to buy a bit of plastic and cotton wool. Yeah. How about companies exist in this country, if you lot are so nationalistic, that make all of this masks, make all the gowns, can make testing kits, can do all that, and have been doing it for 50 years and make them for the NHS, already suppliers to the NHS, already have all the infrastructure. They already have all of the equipment, all of the giant machines, like the machines that look like transformers, and the factories, they have them, and they've invested in Britain, and they've got these companies, and they work for Britain, they pay tax here.
Sure.
They called up the government and said, we're here. What do you need us to do? We have all of the medical certificates that mean we're allowed to make syringes. We've got all the certificates that mean we're allowed to make masks, N95, whatever type you want, surgical masks. We have all the legal stuff. We've got 2,000 people in the workforce who are on furlough right now or about to be on furlough, but we're the medical company. So of course you want us to go to work, right? No, fuck off. We're going to give it to Barry's son.
Exactly.
And Barry's son, half of the things Barry's son bought of 100 million worth of it, we can't find. And the other 100 million is worthless or doesn't meet the British standards or medical standards. It was just a mask. It was just some mask that someone made in China for nothing. And their life is terrible in the first place. Or like their conditions they're living in, you don't know. So like that's what Barry's funding, mate.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I think of what's happened. And at the same time, everyone's dying. They build a big Nightingale hospital. They name it after Florence Nightingale because my man thinks he's Winston Churchill and he's going to come up with... So anyway, that's what we're living in. Listen to the track though, it's sick.
Totally agree. I mean, I listened to K-Cope. He released was it Cokespiracy a few months ago,
Okay.
and I thought that was dope too. That was going along the same lines. Do you think more artists should be coming out and speaking about this, or no?
Do what you want if you're an artist. That's silly. Do what you want. I just hope that, and I hope that people who like-minded people, like, you know what I mean? I like listening to Britney Spears. I like listening to disco. I like listening to jazz. I had like 2 weeks straight of listening to classical music a couple of weeks ago. and like learning about it, going on YouTube. What's the difference between bark and handle? What's different? Like, I like all that stuff, but also I'm the kind of person, I'm from a council estate, I'm a refugee. I like rap music and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I like stuff that's a little bit political. Everyone's different. I've got to hope that someone who's got nothing to do with my life and has no similarities likes my music, as well as someone who's exactly like me. So it's not my responsibility to tell artists, I hope you do this. I just hope that what I listen to reflects what time I'm living in. And I just can't believe when I listen to the radio, very rarely, or I'm in a shop and it's the same Katy Perry song, same Justin Bieber song, the same Mumford and Sons song. And it's like, my guy, it's a pandemic right now. Like, can you at least have a pandemic playlist from people? Like, what are you doing? Like, obviously people are dropping those songs, but you're not playing them. There was just protests about a year ago, and the world looked like it was going to completely change, and the Black Revolution was coming finally, and like no one can tell. Like, if aliens were invading and it was like a long ass invasion where they were occupying us and stuff, would we tell? Would we be able to tell on the radio now? Because I reckon before we could, but it's the same thing as TV and comedy. Like when Thatcher was in power, I wasn't alive, yeah, but I'm being told, from what I'm told and from what I'm seeing, a lot of the art I listened to, it seemed to be quite popular at the time. Artists who were anti-Thatcher, comedians who were anti-Thatcher, actors, theatre people, yeah, the local TV chef, yeah, my man from Ricky Tomlinson, yeah, all of the miners. If you're from the north, you were a socialist and you were against capitalism and you were against this disgusting austerity and demonization of poor people and moving all of the jobs that exist in mining and docks into the financial sector in London, so that just rich boys from private school families have a job and that those places are deprived. Yeah,
sure.
Like, there seemed to be, all of my favorite artists were about that, the Stone Roses, and they were all on dole for like 4 or 5 years while they were working on their craft, going to open mics and rehearsals and writing their songs, writing their material. But when austerity happened here and the Tories were in charge, we had a TV show on BBC Three, a comedy show here for young people about a sitcom set in Afghanistan about British murderous British soldiers in Afghanistan during an occupation of a brown people's country, and it was a sitcom about how funny their life is there as they kill people. We had a guy called Lee Nelson, it's not his real name, on television pretending to put on a fake polo shirt and shorts and trainers and a hat turned backwards and pretend to be a working class person on the dole like me at the time, and like the people around me from my council estate, Irish and white people and Bangladeshi people and people from Turkey and everywhere, Cyprus, yeah, people like me, and with a girlfriend who's pregnant, and they're all on the dole, and his whole thing, yeah, mate, yeah. It's the demonization of poor people that literally, if it was done at Oxford for rich people or at Eton by rich people for rich people, you would think they would be fired for doing that, or like they'd never have a career. But the government, BBC, the publicly funded broadcasting corporation of Britain, was paying for this to be on a teen and young adult channel like BBC Three for comedy, and for him to demonize poor people while the government were taking away every single benefit that existed for poor people, for single mothers, for disabled people, for people with mental health issues, for people who just needed 20 quid that month, right? For students who needed 30 quid to go to school, and that was the only reason why they could afford to get into school and pay for their lunch every day. Otherwise, they would have gone into work. That's what made them go to college. Take away every single one of those things, put a sitcom on with Lee Nelson, and put a sitcom on about Afghanistan while the war's still going on in Iraq and Afghanistan. No one knows that it's still going on 20 years later. Yeah. So am I expecting, when you ask me about music, how come no one's talking about a pandemic, or like, do you expect people to talk about more? I'm just expecting people to turn off BBC Three. And by that point, what happened? They cancelled the channel because they made the channel full of crap. Yeah. And they take it off TV. Now they're announcing they're going to put it back on TV. But I reckon things like that stop people from watching it. Sure. So when you ask me, what should artists do? Artists, you should do whatever you want to do, buddy. I'm never going to tell you what to do as an artist. I'll kill myself if I do that. I'll never do that. But what I'll tell you is, I hope there are more people like me who want people to be nice and don't want to punch people in the face, or want to punch the right people in the face at the right time. Do you know what I mean? Like, generally, do you know what I mean? But also, if everyone was like me, there'd never be another song that didn't sound exactly like one of my songs. That'd be terrible. Because I need to hear I need to hear someone play harp, because I can't do that. Do you know what I mean? So do whatever you need to do, and hopefully the cream rises to the top. And if there is a revolution, then all the revolutionary music becomes hot. So yeah, do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I just hope that things go in a direction that mean that I'm more popular to some extent, but I don't care, man. Yeah, as long as people listen to my stuff, and the very few people who do love it and are touched and whatever, and remember it and want to replay the song and not just want to listen to it once, I'm really happy.
Sure. I think you've already achieved that with your music.
Thank you.
Your tracks that are coming are talking about the truth, and there's an audience out there for you, the kind of music you do. So just keep it coming, because your music's dope. You got a great message, and
Yes, man.
keep it going. So what have you got planned for the future, for 2021, 2022?
So there's an EP coming out.
Okay.
Off the back of this Dominic Cummings song was the first single, and it made it lockdown. That Dominic Cummings is the first taste of what the EP is like.
Nice.
It's different. And then after that, I've got album 2 produced by Turkish coming straight after that. So
wow.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that. Definitely looking forward to that. Wow, that's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. Just before we let you go, Awate, where can people find you on social media?
So social media at the moment, all of my socials, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at or on at Awate Music, which is AWATE MUSIC. Awate Music, which is that's all of them. And then my website is Quite Defiant, or you can go to awatemusic.com or quitedefiant.com for my website, or you can just go to my socials and click on the link to look at my website, which is just like a place where you can
awesome stuff.
Click the links to everything. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. We'll make sure we'll put the links on there. Once it's YouTube, we'll make sure we'll put the links in the description.
Yeah. What's your favorite Tupac song?
Favorite Tupac song at the moment, it changes because of what's going on, and the Black Lives and all that. I was actually listening to it before, and things going on with the protests and stuff. I have a few different, depends what mood I'm in. I'm in angry mood, it's get 'em up or troublesome or something like that. But somber mood, it's Dear Mama, or a softer song. So that's why I love Tupac. Music like that, because you can go to each mood you've got. You can go to a certain song and put it on in your headphones in your car, and it makes you feel a certain way. Just what music's there for, really, isn't it? People use music for relaxation, or for a go-to for stress relief, or but yeah, I kind of like changes at the moment, because I'd say what's going on in the world. How about yourself?
Nice. Yeah, always changes, right? But I'd say go to, just because of like what it does to me. As soon as I listen to it, the verses is Doug's Mansion. Doug's Mansion is there's like that first verse, the second verse, third verse, of course, but the first verse is one of the most vulnerable, beautiful things I've heard, and it's like that verse is similar to Dizzy Rascal line, like one line on Boys in the Corner where he says, plus I think I'm getting weak because my thoughts are too strong, and just that, like, but from a grime artist to be very vulnerable, but someone like Tupac, who's always very vulnerable, always wears his heart on his sleeve, and is like, this is how I'm feeling, this is when I cried, this whatever. That verse, it devastates me every time, and it's beautiful.
Sure. It's nice to see artists like yourself, being influenced by, Tupac and his lyrics. It is nice to see. and you're passing that on to artists coming through.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what he said. That's exactly what he said, though. I'm not going to be the one to change the world. I want to be and will be the person to inspire the mind to change the world, and that's a collectivist idea. Like literally 9 or 15, 12 billion years ago, we were all one bit of clump of matter. Me, you, this computer I'm talking into right now, the Everest, Kilimanjaro, the mountains, the seas, the stars, all of the different asteroids and all the stars in the galaxy, all were one thing together, the size of smaller than an atom, smaller than a quark, like the building blocks of an atom. We were that close together. So when we get pissed off on the bus because there are too many people before COVID, yeah, obviously, yeah, like then I just couldn't believe it. I was like, have you seen what happens in Bangladesh? People are on top of the train. Like, calm down, you know. And yeah, the way Tupac thought about him influencing the next generation and then it continuing like that is how we all need to think and treat each other.
Exactly. Awate, it's been amazing for you to come on here and chat from your beginnings and to where you are now and what you've got coming in the future. It's been awesome to chat to you.
Bless. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Good luck.
Yeah, you too. I'm looking forward to new music.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll hit you up as soon as it's there. I'll send you a link.
Most definitely.